Everyone has one. Few have the courage to face it. The part of you you hide, the envy, the anger, the need for control, you think burying it makes you good. It doesn't. It makes you blind. And what you refuse to see begins to steer your life from the shadows. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Look closely. Are your choices truly yours? Or are they the voice you've spent years trying to silence? The parts of yourself you deny do not disappear, they operate from the shadows and shape your behavior without your consent. Carl Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about the traits you reject most: anger, envy, neediness, even ambition, and notice how they leak out sideways. You snap at someone you love, you sabotage an opportunity, you judge others harshly for what secretly lives in you. This is the shadow at work, not as a monster, but as a neglected part of your psyche trying to be seen. Stoicism offers a parallel truth. What you refuse to examine controls you. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by our judgments about them. When you judge parts of yourself as unacceptable, you exile them. And exiles don't become obedient, they become cunning. A simple exercise. At the end of each day, write down one moment where your reaction felt disproportionate. Ask yourself, what part of me was speaking? Not to shame it, but to understand it. You are not trying to eliminate your shadow, you are trying to meet it. Because once seen, it loses its grip, and what once controlled you becomes something you can choose. The traits you criticize most in others are often reflections of the shadow you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. Jung called this projection the mind's habit of placing its own disowned qualities onto other people. That coworker you call arrogant, that friend you think is selfish, that stranger you label weak. Look closer, and you may find a disowned piece of yourself staring back. Marcus Aurelius wrote, whenever you are offended at someone's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. This is not moral relativism, it is psychological precision. Projection is efficient because it protects your self-image, but it comes at a cost. It blinds you. You lose the chance to grow because you're too busy pointing outward. Try this. The next time someone triggers you strongly, pause and ask, where does this live in me? Even if it appears in a subtler form, perhaps your arrogance is hidden as quiet superiority, your selfishness as chronic self-neglect that demands recognition. This is not about blaming yourself, it's about reclaiming ownership. When you withdraw projections, the world becomes less hostile, and you become more whole. What once irritated you becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, you find the parts of yourself waiting to be integrated. Suppressing your darker impulses does not make you virtuous, it makes you fragmented and internally divided. Many people believe that being good means never feeling anger, never having selfish thoughts, never desiring power or recognition. But Jung saw this as a dangerous illusion. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, he said, but by making the darkness conscious. When you suppress your impulses, you don't become pure, you become split. One part of you performs goodness, while another part grows resentful and hungry in the dark. Seneca warned about this kind of inner conflict, noting that a person who is at war with themselves cannot find peace. The Stoic path is not suppression, but mastery. You acknowledge the impulse, then choose your response. Feel anger fully, but don't become its servant. Recognize your desire for status, but don't let it dictate your worth. Try this practice. When a strong impulse arises, name it without judgment. This is anger. This is envy. This is fear. Then ask, what is the wise action here? Not the performative one, not the repressed one, but the integrated one. True virtue is not the absence of darkness. It is the ability to face it without losing yourself. That is wholeness. Your shadow contains not only what you fear, but also the power, creativity, and assertiveness you have been afraid to claim. The shadow is not just a container for your worst qualities, it is also a vault for your unlived life. Perhaps you were taught that being bold is dangerous, that speaking up is rude, that wanting more is selfish. So you buried those traits, and with them, you buried your potential. Jung understood this paradox. What you reject does not only weaken you, it deprives you. Meanwhile, Stoicism reminds you to live in accordance with your nature, not in fear of judgment. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But you cannot be fully yourself if parts of you are locked away. Consider where you feel a quiet envy. It often points to a life you are not allowing yourself to live. Do you resent those who take risks, who express themselves freely, who lead? That may be your own suppressed vitality calling out. A powerful exercise: write down 3 qualities you admire but feel you lack. Then ask, how might these already exist in me in a smaller, hidden form? Your task is not to become someone new, but to reclaim what you have disowned. In doing so, you don't just reduce your shadow, you expand your life. Facing your shadow requires courage, but it is the only path to genuine freedom and self-mastery. Most people avoid this work because it is uncomfortable, even destabilizing. To admit that you are capable of pettiness, cruelty, deceit, or weakness challenges the identity you've carefully constructed. But avoidance comes with a hidden price. You remain predictable, reactive, and easily controlled by unseen forces within you. Epictetus taught that freedom is found in governing yourself, not in controlling the external world. But how can you govern what you refuse to see? Jung called this process individuation, the integration of all parts of the self into a coherent whole. It is not a one-time realization, but a lifelong practice of honest confrontation. Start small. Notice your defensiveness in conversations. Observe the stories you tell to justify your actions. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding seeing here? And then, instead of turning away, stay with it. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you stop running from yourself. Amor fati, the love of one's fate, extends inward as well. You accept not just what happens to you, but what exists within you. And in that acceptance, something remarkable happens. You are no longer ruled by your shadow, because you have chosen to walk beside it.